for more on Puerto Rico's struggle to rebuild after last year's hurricane season and how officials are preparing for this year, I'm joined by political analyst Phillip Arroyo. Thanks, Phillip, so much for joining us. NHTSA, was very much there on the ground during the hurricane. Obviously, devastating numbers, but we have a new hurricane season. Is Puerto Rico prepared?
Well, that's the big question. First of all, it's always a pleasure to be on your show. It's a pleasure always to speak with the international community. I don't think enough has been done. No long-term measures in terms of mitigation and adaptation measures have been taken by the government of Puerto Rico to provide the people a long-term solution in terms of its vulnerability to hurricanes. Unfortunately, we have a governor in Puerto Rico who seems to be more interested in re-election, more interested in making President Donald Trump look good rather than respond to the needs of the people of Puerto Rico, which at this very moment, almost a year after the hurricane, are still suffering as a result of the aftermath of this devastating hurricane in Puerto Rico. We would expect more action by the government of Puerto Rico in terms of actually presenting not only verbal promises of plans, but actually conveying those plans and that message to the people of Puerto Rico and to the federal government, and they clearly haven't done it.
Well, I mean, just give us an idea of the state of the repairs of the infrastructure repairs and how they're prepared, because we don't really have a lot of firm data on this. Can you enlighten us?
Well, unfortunately, not enough has been done. If you look at the city area of the island, which is the metropolitan area, you do see significant progress in terms of people with their power back. But if you look at the rest of the island, which is the majority of the people of Puerto Rico, on the countryside, on the west coast, those people are still suffering. They don't have basic needs of water. They don't have basic electricity. And it's just unfortunate to see how the people of Puerto Rico, and not only the people on the island, but people here in the United States, to see the poor job that has been done by the government of Puerto Rico and by the federal government in terms of helping these people. We're talking about 4,645 people who have died. And the Puerto Rican government says that supposedly there's only 64. The death count is at 64. Now, in the world of statistics, I can understand there's a margin of error, but we're talking about a margin of error here by the governor of Puerto Rico of around 4,600. So I think the government of Puerto Rico has some serious explanations to do, as well as the federal government. The federal government has not responded adequately to the needs of Puerto Rico after this devastation. And it's sad because in Katrina, we saw over 2,000 people die as a result of Hurricane Katrina. And these recent hurricanes that have passed through the U.S., for example, in Houston and in Puerto Rico's case as well, when the federal government decided to spread the money, federal funds for recovery, they were very generous with Houston. They were very generous with Florida. And then ironically, the American jurisdiction that had the highest death toll got the short end of the stick. Okay. So it's just another example of the colonial injustice that exists in Puerto Rico and the treatment of the federal government that treats Puerto Ricans as third-class citizens, because they're not even second-class citizens. They're being treated as third-class citizens.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind when it comes to Puerto Rico. That's what NHTSA was suggesting as well. I mean, okay, so the island needs revenue as well. So I was going to ask you, is there a tourism rebound happening? Are people coming back to the island? And also, it was saddled with a lot of debt as well early on before this crisis. Wall Street very much involved in the hedge funds. Is there a solution to that?
I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I think that when you have a problem, you have to remedy it by the root. And I think that the root problem in Puerto Rico is its corporate exploitation. You know, the last three governors before the current governor were corporate attorneys. There's nothing wrong with being a corporate attorney, but if you go from the corporate world defending multi-billion-dollar companies and going to the government, I think people are going to have a hard time, trusting whether or not you're going to defend their interest or defend their clients' interests, which is their job as corporate attorneys. You know, unfortunately, there was a law passed by U.S. Congress. It was pretty much created and pushed by corporate America to create a fiscal board on the island with 7 unelected members that basically rule over the island, can even override the governor of Puerto Rico. Yeah. So here we are in a country that preaches freedom and democracy worldwide, and yet we have a 7-member unelected board pushed by Wall Street, which, by the way, has all members of Congress in their pockets, because we all know after Citizens United, they pay their campaigns, so it's sad.
I can hear your passion. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. We'll have to end it there. Please come back and update us. That's Phillip Arroyo talking about